Joe Biden is putting gun control on the ballot this November. The president calling for a slew of anti-gun measures during a highly politicized primetime address. Biden demanding Congress act, but only on the gun crackdown policies that he supports, instead of trying to find common ground. The president taking the opportunity to bash and blame Republicans. But according to a new poll, the majority of Americans don't agree with Biden. Over half don't see school shootings as a guns problem. But that's not stopping Biden from trying to strong-arm Congress into doing what he wants.
For so many of you at home, I want to be very clear. This is not about taking away anyone's guns. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them from 18 to 21. The fact that the majority of the Senate Republicans don't want any of these proposals even to be debated or come up for a vote, I find unconscionable. I believe the majority of you will act to turn your outrage into making this issue central to your vote. Enough. Enough, enough.
But that's not good enough for some on the left. Here are the ladies of The View.
I always say, don't vote for Republicans, because right now, I mean, you can go back to it after we get gun laws.
So I'm now with you, Joy. Get rid of Republicans, get rid of the party as it stands now, because it's the party of white supremacy, it's the party of insurrectionists, it's the party of massacres at this point. It's the party that you can't trust.
Wow. How do you even come to a question based on that? Greg, I mean, the party of massacres, the party of insurrection, the party of white supremacists. But even before I get into that, I mean, the fact that Biden says the Republicans don't even want to debate, don't we have Cornyn, a Republican, trying now to work out a deal with a Democrat?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's being politicized. But yeah, I mean, it's when you listen to Sunny, you have to understand this is the dumbest person on earth. Apparently. I mean, she's a lawyer, right? Imagine her argument in a court case where she goes to the judge. I don't think it's fair that I have to argue this case with the other side. Can they just lose their legal team and I'll just take it from here? Because that's exactly what she's saying. She goes, I don't want to actually hear an opposing or a shared opinion or debate. I'd rather just get rid of all of them, and then she smears them. The thing is, again, it's all about the SVT, single variable thinking. You can't trust somebody if they're only focused on one variable, and that's what you saw last night with President Biden. And that's why people can't trust him, because they think that, oh, my God, if they're only focusing on one thing, they are coming for that one thing, and that is guns. It's all about curbing social media, focusing on mental health, not pronouns and optional identities. And it's also about security for schools. And we can talk about guns. We are open-minded. The Republicans should actually go for it and talk about a multifaceted approach to protect children and take the lead and say, look, we're open to everything, because the Democrats can't expand their viewpoint, but Republicans can. Joe, though, could cut. You remember he said that Second Amendment is an absolute? He could cut the gun-toting population in half if he announced that all Democrats will forfeit their Second Amendment rights and turn in their guns.
Great idea.
Half the country, if you think guns are evil, then why don't you give them up first? Take the first step. You guys lead and we will follow. I mean, a lot of climate activists will do that. They'll reduce their own carbon footprint. They won't own a car. So maybe Democrats who don't like the Second Amendment, get rid of the guns. Probably a lousy shot anyway.
All right, Kellyanne, there is no question that even 51% of Americans agree that, guns are not the answer to the schools massacres, the school shootings that we're seeing. They see other components. They see mental health as a problem. They're interested in strengthening the schools. Why isn't Congress, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans or both of them, why aren't they focused on all of the issues, just like Greg is saying, as opposed to guns, 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 guns? And by the way, there is one congressman who said, spare me the BS, although he said the full words, about constitutional rights.
Well, he said that. He also said, spare me the BS about mental health, that other countries have mental health problems so they don't have guns. And there you've got Joe Biden and others like Senator Cornyn, the Republican tasked to work on this in the Senate judge, who are talking about mental health. Why? Because even the Congress, even the American Rescue Plan last year, $1.9 trillion, has $112 billion earmarked for schools in a post-COVID world. So instead of ventilation systems and the stickers on the floor and masking 7-year-olds, that money has been earmarked for counselors, for mental health services, and for lost learning. This administration has already admitted that it's an issue. But if he can go on prime time and not talk about the children, his first mistake, talk about the guns. He is a non-credible messenger. It is a White House that lies from the podium. You've had 13 high-profile departures in the first female, first vice president of color's office. They don't want to work there. These dream jobs have been turned into nightmares. And frankly, they don't have a messaging problem. They have a fact problem. And he, Joe Biden, talks as if he just got to Washington yesterday. He speaks as an outsider when everybody knows he's in his 5th decade. This is a guy who was tasked by President Biden after Newtown, after the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012. Joe Biden was tasked by President Obama to work on this. Nothing got done. So when he says do something, he's incapable of doing that. I think we should look, there's never any one reason, so you can't have any one solution. And we have to look at the profile of a lot of these shooters. Someone like that, who the other students are afraid of them, take them seriously. Here in New York, see something, say something is about backpacks on the subway. You're afraid of a student. That needs to be important. The guy in Nicholas Cruz, the guy in Parkland, the FBI had been to his homes so many times and never did enough. And there he was, aspiring to be a school shooter. If you aspire to be a school shooter, you're going to get your wish.
Well, you know, Will, one of the things that we talked about yesterday was with the COVID lockdowns, kids in schools now go kind of like from 6th grade to 9th grade because they missed 2 years, and they are emotionally not mature enough socially, but now they're in a position where they're with older kids. I kind of tie that together with the fact that since 2018, we are now seeing the mass shooters, the age of the mass shooters, younger. And Uvalde, is it not Buffalo? Is it Buffalo? Yeah.
Parkland was 19 as well.
Yes, and 19.
You're absolutely right, Judge. And if you were honest and sincere about trying to address this problem, you would be addressing all of the multifactorial contributors that you and Greg and Kellyanne are pointing to. Guns are but one part of that equation. Mental health, as you've mentioned, isolated, social media, first-person video shooter games, big pharma. All of our kids are being prescribed drugs at absolutely record rates. And you're going to tell me none of this is contributing to this uptick in, yes, younger shooters, but the focus has to be simply on the gun. When you say do something, when President Biden says do something, he means do something about guns. And I will just say, the people that are the most passionate about gun control are simultaneously the most dishonest and ignorant people about guns. They know very little about caliber or velocity or magazines. They use these terms, weapons of war.
Or assault.
Or assault weapon, exactly right, Greg. They use these terms like they learned them yesterday on the back of a Cracker Jack box. They have functional meanings, or they're made up in either case, and they do nothing to solve this problem.
All right, Harold, what about the fact that there are 20 congresspeople in swing districts, Democrats, who say, why don't you break this bill down so that we don't have to vote a yes or no on guns? Even they're worried about the public not necessarily buying into the Second Amendment destruction.
So, look, I agree with a lot that's been said, but I approach these things differently. We have a problem. Right? Since Sandy Hook, the shooting at Sandy Hook, there have been 900 mass shootings in the country. Now, if there had been 9 or 5 or 3 or 14, I'd say, you know, maybe there's some overreaction. There have been 900.
Are those? 2. How do you define those, though, Harold?
A mass shooting?
Yeah, because they change. They keep changing them like it's like 4.
Well, I know this. I don't want to be a part of one.
Yeah,
I can look it up here. I can Google it. We can Google what a mass shooting.
No, you're going to have trouble with that, Harold, really quickly, because every organization defines it differently.
I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk. So let's just say it's more than 2. That's got to be. It's got to be more than 1. So 900 of them. 2, in these situations, the school stuff, I would agree with you. The guns alone are not the problem with these school shootings. But in Buffalo, the gun probably was a bigger part of the problem, and the mental health as well. I think Democrats have to be willing, And Republicans have to be willing to accept a little of what they don't want if we want to try to solve this problem. Because it is a problem. This is not something we're making up. There are kids being killed. There are people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you had a hospital, frontline workers be shot by a patient who was upset by the care and treatment that he got. So I'd do 3 things. 1, the age of the shooter ought to be 21. 2, we ought to have a longer waiting period for the background checks to take place. So if there's big tech stuff, if there's social media things, let's figure these things out.
Who's going to investigate
Can I
stuff?
just finish? Look, I know these are uncomfortable things, but I'm glad.
Not that it's uncomfortable. I just know that in real time, you are not going to get law enforcement to do that. I used to sign these permits. I was lucky if I got the local chief to check if they had a record.
You hire more people. Democrats also have to accept. Well, I don't give up. Like I sense there's a resignation here.
What is number 3? A genuine curiosity. What is number
3? You got to put trained people in schools with guns who know how to use them.
Absolutely.
Not teachers. Yeah. Not teachers.
Can I just say, listen to your suggestions.
I'm listening to 4 of you guys tell me, and I'm just trying to react.
It's a conversation
here.
Think
that teachers should be allowed to have guns. But that's interesting.
What I'm trying to say in the spirit of a conversation is I actually, for one, would be open to listening to you talking about raising the age of buying an assault weapon from 18 to 21. I'd be willing to have that conversation.
Well, that's
but
good.
Conversations have to be had. They have to be had on honest grounds. And Greg pressing you on the mass shooting numbers is an honest question because that is everyone.
I said I don't know the answer, but I think it's more than one. Again.
Go ahead, Harold.
We have a problem in this country.
Right.
And it's not going to be solved with what you all have just said. You know why? Because we've been doing that all along, and it's still happening. It's not going to be solved with just Democrats talking about guns. You guys want to bash Democrats? Fair. It's a good platform to be on.
No, they're bashing us. Harold, we're not bashing them.
Listen to me. I wouldn't be saying anything if it wasn't for good faith, my friend. I mean, I'm telling you what I'd like. I call balls and strikes on Democrats and Republicans.
Us the facts.
But Harold,
no.
The age should be raised. There should be a longer period to explore someone's background. You have a 28-day waiting period in Australia. That may be too long. We ought to do that. We ought to have school in the school situation, arm people at these schools. And I believe it's controversial, but these ghost guns, we've got to deal with that when we talk about these gangs and other things, Chicago and New York.
Agreed.
So we're conflating some of these issues.
Agree with that. Coming up next, Joe Biden's presidency is failing so bad that even the liberal media is turning on him.